Hey everyone, welcome back to Bible Q&A. In today's video, the question that we will be answering is, did Jesus ban divorcees from remarrying in Matthew chapter 19 verses 3 to 9? So the short and simple answer to the question is yes, because in verse 9 he made it clear that whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication, and shall marry another, committeth adultery. And whosoever shall marry her which is put away, committeth adultery. So what I want to use this video to really explain is why. When people divorce in today's world, they feel like, okay, they can get married again like it was the first time. But Jesus Christ is saying here that no, when a man marries a woman and later on they have quarrel or they don't want to be together and then the man sends her away, the woman is not really detached from the man. Even if they sign papers and it's even written in law, spiritually, they're still together. They're still bonded. So by the time the woman goes and another man marries her, he's not marrying a free woman. No, he's marrying a woman who is still bound to her husband. And then that's why it's adultery. When God initiated marriage in the Garden of Eden, Genesis chapter 2, verse 24, where he said that when a man shall leave his father and his mother and shall cleave unto his wife, and they twain shall be one flesh, there was no pastor at that time who was going to perhaps be the one to bring them together. There was no law court that they were going to go to. There was no place they were going to register. What would consummate the marriage was sex. So when the man and the woman would sleep together, they would now be married. And if you actually study, particularly what happens in the biology of a woman, you can see that it's not the same. A woman who has never had sex before, something biologically and emotionally happens when she sleeps with a man for the first time. And it's because it is bound spiritually as well. In other words, God also sees the man and the woman as married. So even if later on, for whatever reason, they go back to the man-made law courts to disannul it, it's not disannulling it spiritually. And there are evidences to show that in the eyes of God, it is the sex that binds the man and the woman together rather than papers that are signed. If you read Deuteronomy chapter 22 verses 28 to 29, and I know this may seem a little bit controversial, we see that God commanded that if a man were to forcefully lie with a woman who was not married or engaged, the man would be forced to pay the woman's bride price and she would have to be his wife and he would not be allowed to divorce her. Now in today's courts, the man would likely be sentenced for what's called rape and the woman would perhaps go marry another man, but God didn't see it that way. Of course, a man is not supposed to treat his fellow neighbor like that. I mean, the law that one should love their neighbor as themselves still applies in Leviticus chapter 19 verse 18. But God is looking at it from the angle of the man and the woman are married now, spiritually, because they've had sex. So if the man, for example, is killed or imprisoned or whatever, then the woman has lost her husband. And back then, women who didn't have husbands, either widows or divorcees, whatever, they were not really in a good social and physical condition. They could be taken advantage of, and the economy wasn't such that women could fend for themselves. So as a result of that, God designed it so that the man would now be forced to finish what he already started. So the central idea here is that when a man sleeps with a woman who has never engaged in that before, they are now married. Therefore, if we sign papers saying you're divorced, those have no spiritual meaning. And for those of us who are familiar with Paul's analysis of this matter, we can now understand why he, quoting God's commandment, had said, "Let not the wife depart from her husband, but and if she depart, let her remain unmarried or be reconciled unto her husband. So the third option of going to marry another man isn't there, because that's adultery. And I just want to conclude this discussion by saying that even the whole idea of divorce being allowed, Jesus Christ told us that Moses allowing it was not because God inspired him to do so. No, it was because Moses, not out of inspiration, responded from pressure that the people mounted on him. And this is important because it is not everything in the Bible that God necessarily made people to do or say. Another prime example of this is the case of Israelite kings. I know that there were kings like David and Hezekiah that were righteous, but the entire idea of there being kingship was not God's original intention. And in Hosea chapter 13 verse 11, we learn that God gave them kings in his anger so that they could see the futility or the consequence of setting that kind of Gentile system over them. So God could allow it even though it wasn't his intention. The fact that Moses signed it into law doesn't mean that that was God's intention. And Jesus told us in Matthew chapter 19 verse 6 that from the beginning it was not so. And as Christians, should we be looking for loopholes in God's law? Perhaps, places where we can exploit some periphery statement and then use that to forget about the essence? Or should we ask ourselves, why did God set up marriage in the first place? Did he set up marriage so that we could disannul it whenever we felt like? Or did he set it up so that it could be something holy, something we cherish, something that we protect at all costs? Just as maybe have a skin disease. How many people will just scrape off their skin? No, it's your skin. It's your body. You want to cherish it. You want to work with it. You want to seek medicine for it. So our marriage is just like that. Even if there are crises, and there's no single marriage in this world that doesn't have crises, see it like it's your body. That's why Paul said that a man who's married should see his wife as himself, and vice versa. You treat your spouse and the marriage between the two of you as your own flesh, your own body that you naturally would cherish and work to keep healthy and fresh and good. So when we begin to see marriage like that, then rather than looking for the escape valve, we'll be looking for, how can I come up with a way to fix this? And then invite God through prayers, and he will help in that process, so that down the road we will be proud of the fact that we were able to take what seemed to be a almost failed situation and make it into something that works at the end of the day, and most importantly is in accordance with God's law. So I think I'll end my answer there to the question on whether Jesus Christ banned divorcees from remarrying. The answer to the question is yes, he did ban them, because divorcing and remarrying somebody else is considered adultery, not just because Jesus Christ said it, but even by the laws of God themselves. It shows that divorce and marrying someone else is considered adultery. So if you enjoyed this video and liked the way I answered this question, then I'd greatly appreciate if you click the like button and also the subscribe button. And if you want to be notified when I come back with another video just like this, you can click the notification bell. And just one more thing, if you have any comments about this, because I know this subject is a rather sensitive topic, so if any of you disagree with me, I'd love to hear your comments in the comment section below so that we can discuss this further. Anyway, have a good day, and God bless you.